Bad Movie Crew. Bad Movie Crew.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Bad Movie Crew. You know who we are. I am Neil, here with my brother Mark, as always.
What it is, people, what it is.
And BMC is back again with another episode, and this time we are reviewing something very special, I think. Now, before we get into that, let's talk a bit of what's happening on social media. Now, you guys are liking what's happening. We actually are really impressed and relieved that you guys like the last episode so much. It's doing really well. At the time of this video, it was a bit longer than our normal reviews, so over an hour, a little over an hour, but you guys are killing it. You really like how we broke it down and our funny personalities or whatever, but we like that. So continue supporting us. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, hit notification bell so you don't miss anything coming out from us on the pipeline, because we do have some ideas that we are more we not even toying with. It's just a funny time to execute it, but we got some stuff coming on there. Like, comment, share, and let me build the community and keep it going. Now, my brother,
Yes, sir.
what are we reviewing this episode?
This episode is a tried and true entry in the cinematic world. No Time to Die was known as Bond 25 for a while because it didn't have a name. But we gone into the world of spies and gadgets and back alley deals and underhandedness by the government. So let me get at it.
Yep, double agent, triple agent life. So,
Yeah.
No Time to Die. As Mark said, it is the 25th Bond in the cinematic series. It came out October 2021. It was produced by MGM Studios, Eon Productions, and it was distributed by Universal Pictures. Now, the director is Kari Joji Fukunaga. I hope I pronounced that right. The cinematography, he is Linus Sandgren. And the music was by our boy Hans Zimmer. He tried on this movie.
Yeah, he did.
This wasn't like an Army of Thieves.
I really feel that our meeting is gonna be like our benchmark, like
for
our
sure.
baseline.
Which
our
is
baseline.
I thought it was gonna be Sweet Girl, but
But
anyhow.
our meeting, yeah, well.
And trust me, on Bad Movie Crew, our standard for bad movies will change.
It will.
So this movie stars Daniel Craig. Everybody knows he's been doing this for a few years, and he's been an interesting retake on Bond. We have Rami Malek. He's been in series like Mr. Robot. He was in the biopic of Freddie Mercury, where he played Freddie Mercury. He's a good actor. I like him. I like him. He's a good young actor. He's solid. We have Leah Seydoux. We have LaShawn Lynch, who plays the female, anyhow we can get it, but the female Bond. We have Ben Whishaw. We have Naomi Harris. We have Jeffrey Wright, who plays Felix, as we all know. Naomi Harris playing Moneypenny. Christoph Waltz. I love Christoph Waltz. Christoph Waltz, he has been in movies like Inglourious Basterds,
Django. Just Django.
Like,
let me just let Django.
He's
Django.
Right. Ralph Fiennes, he plays M. So we have the cast. Of course, we have to mention, because of the James Bond film, the song, the titular song, No Time to Die, was sung by Billie Eilish. Which, Mark, I ain't gonna lie to you, when I was doing research to this, I freak out that she's only 19. Billie Eilish been around for so long.
Yeah.
When I saw that she's only 19, I was like, sheesh. But anyhow.
I would tell you that this is the first time I've ever heard anything from her. And I was pretty impressed by the title song, but we get into that.
Right. All right. So, no, as Mark said, we're going to be reviewing No Time to Die. As y'all know how we do it, how we keep it in our reviews. Spoiler alert. If you have not watched No Time to Die and you care about watching it and not having things spoiled or revealed, do not watch this. Take a pause. Well, don't watch it. You got to watch it. Come on.
Yeah, you should.
Right. But, put us in favorites after you like and you subscribe to the channel and everything like that. Pause right here. Go watch No Time to Die whenever you can at your leisure, the internet, on a scheduled time. So you could watch it. Once you feel comfortable, you could come back and watch what we had to say on it, and then comment. Let us know if you thought that we were all spot on, if we were middling, as Mark loves to say, or if he was talking beer jump. So now, Mark, let's get into it. What were your thoughts on No Time to Die?
While this movie is not out bad, I think this movie is a perfect encapsulation, a perfect sentiment of Daniel's time as Bond. As you will know, if you're a big Bond fan, he was not a favorite pick. His pick for Bond was met with middling fanfare. Some liked it, some hated it, and whatnot. His movies, he did 5, so this being his 5th and final one. And again, movies were hit or miss. He has some classics like Casino Royale and Skyfall, and then he got some ones in the middle, that some bad ones that really wasn't his fault because Quantum of Solace got hit by the writer's strike, and you could give a pass for anything that come out in that time because if you don't know about the writer's strike, you're on the wrong channel. But you could go Google it. Google is there. Writer's strike done up a lot of good shows that were out at that time,
Yes, sir.
movies, and then Spectre, which I think I didn't watch that one, but I think given what I've heard people say about the movie, that's probably the worst one in the lot because when I read up on it, I did some research and they realized what they tried to do was from Quantum of Solace was supposed to be the new age Spectre, but then they had to retcon it to bring in Spectre, so they weren't sure how to do it, so it was hit or miss. So that's why a lot of people don't like it. And then you have No Time, and you have his last entry here. The Good is a Bond film, so the set pieces, action pieces are going to be top notch. The set pieces were great. I like the action, was well shot, was well filmed. The actors did their thing. I think this was Craig's best portrayal as Bond because they did something over his 5 movies that they didn't do with the other ones where they had an overall arc to it. Because you can see from Casino Royale, he goes from raw, quick to kill, freshly put as a double O, probably now got elevated to double O status. And as you go through the movies, they kind of peel back the layers and they show him. Obviously, he would age throughout the movies because they ain't coming out year after year. There's some space between them. And so now it goes from young, brash agent ready to kill to veteran agent where he's more cautious. He's more willing to seek an alternative method. He's lost a lot. You can see he's lost a lot. He's trusted. He's loved. He's lost. Even that plays a part in this movie. We delve into his history, so they really kind of explored the human side of Bond, which I liked. A lot of people didn't like it because everybody grew up with 007. He's a man's man. You get the women. He drive cool cars. He's get good gadgets. So they try to humanize him and whatnot. Like I said, acting was good. Everybody did their thing. I really like although she was in it for a brief minute, I like Paloma. She's played by actress and oh Lord, the name escapes me right now, but she was in it briefly and she really popped off the screen in her time on screen. And it was good. You gotta talk about Ralph Fiennes, everybody did their thing. I will say I was genuinely surprised from the trailers and all the talk about it going to a female Bond. The way it was done was not what the internet feared, is what I should say. Because obviously this movie was delayed because of pandemic and whatnot. So leaks and everybody would have had their takes on what they would have seen from trailers or whatnot. And I was pleasantly surprised because we know that when you're switching sexes of a main character, there's always some issue with it. And I will say that I was pleasantly surprised that they didn't go down the usual tropes. The bad about this for me, first off, the runtime. 2 hours and 43 minutes is a bit much. And I could tell it was going to be, even when the movie started up and I realized it was 2 hours and 43 minutes, I was like, all right, it's going to be a long one. Buckle in. But from the prologue, this sets the pace for Bond movies. I could tell it was going to be a slow burn. Like, I could go back. I don't remember much about the Sean Connerys and stuff before that. But so if you just go back from Pierce to Daniel up until this movie, all the preludes, prologues, that first part, there's always something action filled that, sets the tone for the movie. We all remember the first one when Pierce, when he jumps off the dam, when he sneaks in through a toilet, all sorts of stuff in the other ones, when he rescues the jet before the missile strike, all of that. You remember Casino Royale where he does all the parkour and everything. This one was more subdued. Yes, there was some action, but it was too long. I forgot. Wait, did we actually see the gun thing come across the screen that you normally see, and he stops and shoot? I can't remember if I saw that. And that was and I was like, did I see it? And I wasn't really gonna rewind. I wasn't gonna rewind.
Movies along it, bet you said cheese or bread, boy. What
I
day
see
is?
it exactly. So it's like it was just long, and that set the tone for the movie. Everything was long, and they took their time in establishing what they were doing. And I understand is the swan song for this version, this iteration of Bond. So I could understand the length, but I'm still saying I think they're probably a good half hour could have been cut and left on the floor, in my opinion.
15 to 20 for me, but yeah. I mean, I get the sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah, some could have been left on the floor. I love Rami Malek. I love him. Like you said, I think he's a great young actor. But as far as a villain goes, he didn't
He did it
pop
for you?
off this. No, he didn't pop off the screen for me.
That's interesting.
He didn't.
That is
All
interesting.
right. Okay, so like, if this was any other movie not named Bond, maybe. But if you look at the Bond, if you look at the villains, like everybody pops off the screen. Le Chiffre,
Yeah, Le Chiffre was bad.
As charismatic as he was, that man literally hit James Bond in balls with a knotted rope. Like,
yeah,
like,
boy. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Javier Bardem, he shot that woman point like he was ruthless. The guy in Quantum of Solace was more organization, but there were moments in there where the villain pop off the screen.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he didn't. Every time he was on screen, I was like, all right, yeah, he's the villain. I know he's the villain, but he didn't seem like he was a type, except for the beginning of the movie when he turned up to kill the people. He didn't really pop off the screen for me. I don't know if it's his. Bond villains aren't usually the big, menacing, physical, imposing type, but at a moment's notice they are quick to violence. They're quick to shoot you in your face or do something. But to me, like he was almost a little too passive. You know, like he didn't really pop off to me as a villain. So, like, and as we always say, your movie is only as good as your villain. Like, if your villain is a bad man, like Idris.
Don't come talking no, but Idris is a bad man and your villain, your picture is only as good as your villain. Cause we had to say about the hard to fall.
But hold on.
As I remember, Bear.com.
Exactly. But up until the end, the villain was villainous. Up until the end, the villain was villainous.
So Idris is not a good villain.
He was a good villain up until the end when the story tell you about he won't come again. He talk about how he fought beat he and all sorts of stuff. No, we need that.
No.
Shoot people, kill people. Anyhow, let me not stray.
It's still fresh, people. It's still fresh.
It's so fresh. But I don't know. Like, it just he didn't pop off the screen for me, and I tried. I really tried, because as much as it's a typical revenge plot, he family get killed, so he want get revenge, and then he want to kill the rest of the world. That plot was a bit long-winded. He played the long con in this. in this, like he really played the long con, and
the villains this year in 2021 playing the longest cons, boy. Man got time put down.
Correct. So he comes to kill the family of the person that killed his family. Can't find the husband, so he kills the wife and he goes to kill the girl, but then he saves the girl, who then ends up happening to be James Bond's
to be playing a very integral part.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, to me, that was more happenstance.
Yeah,
and even Blofeld had a plan to put a bomb in Vesper grave in hopes that James Bond come there. And like, when they got a long call here, like, when I got time put down.
Not only a long call, but the man just hoping or hope that things just for like. Anyhow, you go ahead.
So I saw like I said to myself, but suppose the man never went to the gravesite of Vesper. Like, you can just go a man saying, no, they're waiting to press a bomb for nothing, like wasted resources. You could got that man doing something else, Profile. You could got that man doing. I am sure there's something more valuable than a man sitting on a grave. No, James.
Yeah, James ain't come today.
James ain't come today. Pack it up, put your newspaper on your arm, gonna get a little baguette and go home.
And this man get paid real good money, you know. Don't get that. This man get paid a little too. This man getting
That's
paid.
$2 hour.
This man getting paid good money to watch out football and press about it here.
Right. So and then there's suppose no somebody takes up because you have a flawed arrangement with respect to calling card. Suppose somebody come and teach you flawed arrangement.
And the thing
Like,
is,
what do you want?
the flowers are dead, right? So and to say that the card lily white first is first, and it was just put there, and I'm telling myself, first is first. Why would you put a card to I don't know to tell Bond that it's him? Two, how James Bond even see that card? Like,
Like I said, there was some real convenience in these plots.
yeah,
And
it's a high level plots, high pace plots there, man.
I say like, all right, cool, but do your thing. It's James Bond. We talking about agent, triple agent, all sorts of things. I will say I like the ending. I like what they did with this iteration of James. As I said at the beginning, because it showed growth. It showed him mature. It showed him make a sacrifice for the betterment because obviously he was infected and he could not go wrong. His love interest or his child, so he would rather die than live without them. It's an interesting thing to do for a James Bond movie because we have never seen a Bond die on screen. They've just swapped up and said, "Hey, look, this is new one." I mean, like when they replaced Aviv, but we don't talk about that.
It's like when they move on from Sean Connery. It's like
Yeah,
you look at Roger Moore. You say, hey, but you look very different. Oh, don't worry about that.
yeah, I remember that. But
I
again,
put on a little bit.
yeah, but like I said, but they've done it with the other characters in the movie. M has changed, Q has changed, Moneypenny has changed, and whatever. But like I said, I like what they did because now I guess they can now have a fresh start when they go to Bond 26. I mean, looking down the road, there's a fresh start. You get a new Felix Leiter because Felix Leiter is a central character to James Bond in the spy world, and you can bring a whole new James Bond, and you can start fresh. You can almost get like a fresh start from what was the ups and downs of Daniel's tenure. One thing again I found was lacking too was the trademark wit, the trademark one-liners. There were very few one-liners. I know we are in a more progressive society, and we don't want to portray James Bond as being promiscuous and the ruffian he is with the women as he were in the earlier movies. And I'm all for that. I understand. I am all for that. But good God, don't take away the man charm. Like the man's one-liners and interaction with Moneypenny is kind of like a basis, a staple. Like so, like there was no. I remember like to this day I can remember this one interaction between Pierce and the Moneypenny from his thing, where M tells him, "You knew this person's wife, reconnect with her, and pump her for information."
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
yeah, yeah.
without missing a beat, Moneypenny just times in how much pumping is up to you. Like, and you can see like James like, all right, good one.
But that was
So
20 foot. But that was over 20 years ago. That was 25 years ago. Different times, my brother.
right, but
Different
what I'm
times.
saying, but still, what I'm saying, like you can still make him charming, and I want to say, like you want to make him charming and appealing to women, because James Bond is the man that every man wants to be, and the man that every woman wants to be with. So he still has to have that appeal. I ain't saying he got to, like I said, in previous movies where they're roughing up the women and whatnot. That's not kosher. We don't do that.
When the man was sleeping with at least 4 women in the movie, boy. I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
James
Right.
STDs is something to consider, though.
We got the characters the female characters near pussy galore. We got them. We understand.
Pussy. I thought Pussy Galore was inappropriate for its time.
All right.
That was in the 60s.
Exactly. So, but you can't take away his charm. Like he was always quick witted. He's charming, and to me, like I think that was another piece that was missing. Yeah. So to me, I don't out and out hate the movie, but I think I think they could have done a lot better with the villain and just the portrayal of how he was in this movie. That's my honest thing. That's how I feel about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to point out, Mark and I don't really compare notes when we do these reviews. Yes, we may have a very brief conversation about the movie when we before we start recording, like probably 5 minutes before we record. We may say, because we can't help, we're best friends, right? So this, what you're saying here, is what we have always done. It's just that we got technology and cameras and lights now, but really and truly, we've always done that where we discuss movies, and we try hard not to speak on it before, so we can have each other's raw opinions
reaction,
and
yeah.
And it is interesting to hear Mark's review of this, because our review is essentially the same. But here's my caveat, because going into it, I knew certain things, right? I knew that there was going to have a female character, a black woman portraying 007, which is not a lie. I did know that he was going to die at the end of it. That was spoiled. Yeah. That,
you did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
I was reading an article, one of the clickbait articles on No Time to Die, and I clicked on it, and as I was reading, the man just blurted out like, "Yeah, he dies at the end of this." And I was like, it was the same article where there was speaking reference to Q being at least bisexual or homosexual, right? Because right. So I was reading on that and stuff like that to say, okay, we're really upsetting people now about this thing. And then it blurts out that he dies. Now I didn't know that he had a child in it. I thought that was a nice touch. But anyhow, let's get into it.
Yeah.
For me, starting out this movie, going into these things, I knew those things, right? Like you said, Martin, the first 10 minutes for sure are very slow. Very, very slow. And it sets up what kind of pacing this movie is going to be, right? If the first 10 minutes, you can't get past the first 10 minutes, maybe this movie ain't for you. Because 2 hours and 43 minutes, I remember before I watched it, Mar was like, Mar asked me, yeah, we get to record this evening? And I was like, yeah, I ain't watched the movie yet though, so I gotta watch it. Mar said, well, you better get to it because it's 2 hours and 43 minutes. I was like, that what? 2 hours and how much?
In the immortal words of the Virgin Mary, come again.
I literally take that in mind because I was like, 2 hours and 43 minutes of James Bond doing James Bond things. Like, I understand he going out, but my God. So that already, I was going in with a prejudice too. So I went into it, and the first 10 minutes slow. It picks up with Madeline and James. They're in love. They're in Europe somewhere, Italy, I think it was, and they're doing their romantic stuff. And it leads into what Mark was alluding to, blowing up. Having that one man watching day in, day out, racely and slow with the one button there so that she's not boss. We have seen the James Bond today. But you tell me he gonna come, so I can wait and you pay me good. So when you
the easiest henchman job ever.
Ever. So you get into the movie, and the thing is, once it starts, once you get past that, because it's essentially like you have the 10 minute, the 10 minutes, first 10 minutes, first 10, 12 minutes, and then you have the opening credits, and then pew, like for a good, I want to say maybe 10, 20 or so minutes. It's just pace, exposition, pace, and it.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, it sustains that. I think what I can kind of do it reverse now. The negative for me was the pacing, but the pacing more so of I didn't mind the beginning being slow, and then it just go from 0 to 60 one time. But then it will ramp up and then ramp down. Like that scene in the forest where they were going into the third act, and James is trying to escape with Madeline and her daughter, and then they go into this cat and mouse thing in the forest. I'm like,
yeah,
this is not really indicative of a James Bond film, this cat and mouse like thing. But it's interesting because I forgot about, like, going into the third act. I forgot that James Bond dies at the end of this. I remember.
Moving along, knock it out your memory.
If I see James Bond again, because I was watching this right at the beginning, certain things happen. Like he's blown up at Vesper's grave, and I'm like, James Bond survived this. What? And then there's a scene where they throw down grenades at James Bond. Which bad guys cook grenades. Shoot, I used to play Call of Duty, and I just cook grenades. I'm gonna cook grenades, though. Anyhow, there's this.
Now that you say that, now that you say so, right? There was one part that blew my mind when he made escape at the beginning of the movie down the elevator shaft. I like hard. I was like, hard.
Virtual high five. Hard. Yeah, B. Listen.
It was like,
oh my God. And that's a perfect segue into to a point that I wanted to make. The technology in this, we know James Bond is about his gadgets, right? We know that good guys, bad guys, everybody, they have the resources, they have the
the
they did
technology.
the research, they did the research and development. These people have cutting edge technology and are not afraid to use it. There was this scene where the man put magnets all down an elevator shaft, put vests on you, and throw down and essentially threw
And
down a captive.
a scientist, yeah.
Right.
The scientist.
And the man fall, he must say, there's no elevator, there's no elevator. And then he stops when they activated the magnets. That was hard. I'm sorry.
Listen,
That's hard.
that was hard. Yeah,
And
that was hard.
and the
It was
thing
hard.
and the thing about it is that as much as James Bond has these fantastical gadgets, the thing about it is that James Bond has always had technology that was yes ahead of its time, but it was still a plausible thing, right? Like machine guns in the Aston Martin, oil slick, smoke screen, gadgets in the watches, etc. Those things were plausible by and large. That while I don't think that is technology that exists, maybe they know, some people don't, but it seemed plausible. Like the physics
Yeah, it does. It does.
could kind of
The
work.
physics
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Magnets, reverse polarity,
Right,
yada, yada,
right.
yada.
Right.
Yeah.
Along with that too, the Aston Martin at the beginning too, classic Aston
Yeah.
Martin, right? And I love that
Correct.
scene. I love that scene. That was perfectly executed.
They really paid homage to the classic movies with that one.
Yes. So then, James Bond has his little gadgets too. He had a little watch that does things, which was problematic in the end to me. But the thing about it is the technology was fine. So James Bond, he was still James Bond in this. He was still 007. That segues into the next thing, the female 007. I almost feel now, after watching the movie, that MGM Studios and Eon Productions, they probably put out that leak just to test, because that came out like a year and a half ago or something like that.
Yeah,
So
that was a while ago. Yeah.
So I think they put that out there. It was not going to be a major plot point in the movie, because let's be honest, right? That part or that character could have been a supplementary character. It could have been a 009. It could have been 0012. Not necessarily 007, but it was a very well done tester or teaser to see how people will react to a female 007, because they obviously knew he was going to die at the end of this one. I thought how they did it and handled it, and the jokes around it and how it was executed was well done, because it makes sense. James Bond goes off the grid. Everybody says that he's gone so far off the grid they thought he died at the end of the last movie, right?
Yeah.
So 007 is a designation. You give it to agents.
Correct.
An agent proves himself worthy and becomes 007, right? And a lot of people were worried that it was going to be essentially a gender swap of an iconic role. So instead of being James Bond, it'll be Jane Bond, for example, right? And it was going to be like a hardcore she trying to be James Bond in terms of, and it's so interesting. I can get into this because they were saying, that how is a woman going to be James Bond, because James Bond's supposed to be a man's man. So now you have a woman portraying essentially masculine qualities and traits. Then there's the sexism. He always has promiscuous sex to get
information. Yeah.
He would do anything to get the information. So is she going to do that? And knowing the stereotypes around those types of things. So it was interesting how they handled it, because they handled it as in, James Bond is assumed dead. They have somebody else continue. And she is her own character. She is 007, but she is not James Bond, if that makes sense. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I like the handling of it, and I like how they can set it, because at the end of it, he dies. And if they wanted to continue, because you're so right in your analysis in that they set this up to they could either create a whole new James Bond, a whole new character, a whole new guy, a whole new set of team and everything like that, and it not be out of place because that's norm. Or they could continue this universe and have her portrayed 007, but she is now her own 007, right? So I actually appreciated how they handled it. I was a bit worried about that they were going to do a hardcore gender swap and it going to be kind of awkward and forced, but it was well done. I even like how they poked fun at it, because throughout the early parts of the movie, it's like, how you feel about everybody calling me 007, how you feel about that? Right? And people giving funny looks and everything like that, but in the end, I like how she essentially kowtowed to the larger mobby and say, you know what, you are 007. I like how that was handled. Hans Zimmer was in his bag. That's why I don't know what Hans Zimmer boy, the people have pictures of you to blackmail you to do Army of Thieves. I don't understand how you get involved in that. Because again, Hans Zimmer was perfect. Even with the iconic score of James Bond of 007, he was masterful. The music was swelling, the tension, it was perfect. The cinematography was great too. I have seen better cinematography within the last few movies that we've done, but this is not a knock on this guy's cinematography because it's his style. Cinematography is like painting, is art, how
Yeah.
you see and how you translate visuals.
Correct.
And he does a very
Correct.
masterful job of it, right?
Yeah.
With the colors and everything like that, and how he frames up certain parts and everything like that. So, the production value is there, it's high. My knock on the production would be the special effects because for $250 million to $300 million, some of the effects look dated and the movie come out last month. So that's my little cheap knock on it. But now what I come down to is, as Mark said, I can have to agree where it is. I am middling and I have mixed emotions about this because coming on into the movie, I'm like, okay, this is Daniel Craig's James Bond. But at the end of it, I was left saying this is James Bond. It's not Daniel Craig's homage to a character. It felt like a eulogy to the character James Bond. Because I remember some years ago, especially when they were talking about the gender swap, and this has always been problematic over the last, like I would say, at least the last decade. We have become a progressive society. We are moving, our minds are shifting. We're becoming more aware of certain behaviors, and we are very analytical of certain societal norms. We challenge them, right? So with that said, as Mark said, James Bond is a man's man. He is a sexist man. Back in the 60s or whatever, obviously that time it was different. So he was a reflection of that time, and they tried to, as the times go, he adapts. The problem is that the unfortunate thing about every iteration of James Bond and every cinematic entry of James Bond has always adapted to that time. James Bond, as we knew him, as we grew up with Mark, he cannot adapt to this time. James Bond would get Me Too. I saw there was an article that was making jokes about it that James Bond would get Me Too in these times. So,
but which is why I mentioned to the promiscuous, right? Promiscuity.
Yes, promiscuity.
Yeah, that right. Yeah, trust me, we pass English. Give me a break. We pass English. We got English at CXC people. Relax yourself.
We is experts.
We is experts.
But that's why I say you could cut that out, because even in this movie, the only person he slept with was Madeline. And that you can see that
he was monogamous.
That was his.
He was monogamous.
Right. You can see that he was monogamous and he was in love, and that was his thing. You can cut out all of the random sex. That is, I understand, because you want to. We're in a like you said, we're challenging norms. We're a different society. But flirting is charm.
No. But you see, that's the point, Mark.
Charm is charm.
No.
Charm is charm.
But here's my thing. I agree with you, but not for a character as iconic and as steeped in certain traits as James Bond. So let's say you were writing a character like James Bond. Let's say you were doing a story on 011, 005.
Not 6, because we know he drop off.
Yeah. He ain't make it out.
Sean Bean didn't make it.
He ain't make it out. Sean Bean dies again.
He didn't make it out again.
Right. But if you were creating another 00, then yes, you have latitude to create his charm of his own volition of how he wants. But here's the thing. James Bond is so iconic. And the people watching James Bond know what James Bond was. As a matter of fact, a lot of people did not necessarily like the take of Daniel Craig and this iteration of James Bond because he was not a man's man in terms of being suave and smooth and, witty one-liners and being suave. Yeah. Like this one, he was a brute. He running behind you, he parkouring. They used to make a joke saying that Daniel Craig, he's a running James Bond, right? Because he don't need to ask the murder because he running behind you, right? So a lot of people did not necessarily like that. And then this James Bond was not only more gritty and more in your face and more hand to hand, but he was also more vulnerable. He's the most vulnerable James Bond that we've seen. He's fallen in love a couple of times. He has cried a couple of times. This James Bond would not have worked 20 years ago. Shoot, I dare say 15 years ago. So this is why I think James Bond had to die, because you cannot to take such, because again, this character is based off of a character in a book. So if you were to take those iconic works of book, because you can't change the books. Those books are those books. Those characters, his motivations are his motivations. Who he is who he is, right? You can't change that. However, you can show growth over time, and that's what they did with this Daniel Craig iteration of James Bond. And it would be interesting to find out if they always plan to have him die at the end of his tenure, because James Bond dies. Who he is, that agent, that style of being an agent, those characteristics have died. It's almost a reference to the death of certain mindsets.
Certain mindsets.
It is a better way to put it. Yeah, certain mindsets. So I like the fact that he dies, and I like the fact that this movie plays out as a eulogy to James Bond, because we saw a lot of beats, and this goes to Remy Malek. No, with him as a villain, he may not have been the best villain, but he works. Because if you say you don't remember the Sean Connery James Bonds, but back then them villains were poor. Those villains used to sit, stroke a cat, and have machinations and leave you behind as a laser slowly cuts through your pants to get to, you know what I mean? So
I get you.
So to me, while he was not a Idris Elba, for example, he was not so villainous or whatever, and even somebody, because there was a plot hole where, as you said, the bad guy looking to kill the family of the person that killed his family. He kills the wife and spares the daughter. That don't play. That don't make sense. Like, granted, he may have felt in the moment like, child, I ain't really got the heart to kill a child, but the way they make it,
this child shoot he, baby. I just want you to know.
I just say,
shoot child. The child shoot you. So that's enough motivation.
Right.
You little ratchet.
Right, you little.
Drunk on the ice. I say,
yeah. Furthermore, I was to watch your eyes as they close. But the thing about it is that didn't play out for me. But the reason why it works is because when you think about James Bond villains holistically, like the grand scheme, the average James Bond villain is Remy Malek. He's just, very quiet and very soft spoken, but still he had a menacing, threatening, especially when he was using the girl. Because I don't think if he didn't have that little girl as a hostage, I didn't care nothing about his threatening tones. But he was threatening with the little girl. So, and I wasn't afraid of him.
Exactly. Like,
but
no knock on him.
He acted brilliantly. He acted brilliantly. Man acted brilliantly.
But the character just didn't. It didn't ooze.
But to be honest, that's a typical James Bond character. What we should have done, we should have watched all the James Bond. Shoot, there's a lot of James Bonds, but we should have watched.
I ain't got that sort of thing.
Right, we should have watched a few. We should have watched a couple or a James Bond movie from each actor,
each character.
Right, and see the villains, right? Because the villains really they were nondescript. Like Dr. No, yes, he was hyped up as you Dr. No, but Dr. No was soft. Like, for what we know as villains, Dr. No was soft. Okay. Right, so Rami did his part well. To me, what did not work for me as a villain. Normally, when you have a James Bond villain, you have a henchman. The top henchman is usually like a real like, we had there was Jaws,
Batista.
Yeah, Jaws and
you had Batista, Dave Batista and them sort of things.
Right, but this one here was soft. No, soft.
I don't even consider he top villain. I think.
Oh shoot! Logan Ash
was more the
brother man. I can like if Logan Ash was the second in command, that's a worse second. Logan Ash was barely in this movie, but the other one there's a guy with a fake like that.
I know him.
Right, like he was alright, but he let me down as a henchman. Like, to me, that is where, and I think that's why back in the day, the top villains, the big bars were not so bad, because you had a second in command, a henchman that was really the man like, Chiefs on bread, boy. This man's so evil that he would hire a man like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this second in command was soft.
Okay. I see what you were saying.
The second in command was soft to me. But this movie to me works because
wasn't a treasure shooting.
No, it wasn't a treasure or Cherokee Bill. But the reason why this movie works is because for what it's doing is essentially the death of James Bond. This is what this movie should have been called, the death of James Bond. It was a great eulogy, a great swan song. It paid homage to every, I would say, generation of James Bond with the gadgets, there was a one or two one-liner or wit here and there. There was the progression of certain characters, because Q is seen to be, as I said, his gender, his sexual orientation is kind of alluded to. And I don't mind that. It was not necessary, but it was not unnecessary. It's the times. And I think the reason why they put it in is to show you that, you know what, this is not your grandfather's or your father's Bond. Times are a-changing. And James Bond,
fair enough.
James Bond can't make it out. Like, we can't make another James Bond. Can you imagine a James Bond coming out in 2025 with the same James Bond character, he's going to be so far removed from what we remember as James Bond, Sean Connery, Timothy Dalton,
Roger Moore,
Roger Moore, and was it
Pierce.
Pierce Brosnan. He's going to be so far removed from that charm and wit that he's unrecognizable. You could as well not call him James Bond. I think I understand why they did that, because it would piss off me as a fan of James Bond to have essentially a man that is more vulnerable and more soft. Because as much as Daniel Craig was vulnerable, he was still getting your face and kill, you know. He was still rough around the edges. So that was the counterbalance, but it would not have worked with another character. I think I understand why they killed him. I understand why they made it such that, you know, if they wanted to carry on with Lashana Lynch, they can do that. She can be, she may not be 007 because out of respect of James and their camaraderie that they're formed by the end of the movie, they may not want to go down that road. So she may be 009,
Maybe. So they might just retire that number and just anything else here is not a 007.
Right.
Okay,
right.
I understand what you're saying. I understand your angle here.
And then if you go down as she is 00, let's say 0012, then she is 0012. And how she conducts herself as working for MI6 and going down the road of being a super spy, that is her angle. It would not be James Bond. It would not be James Bond. Let's not fool our foot. But it would be its own thing. And I ain't got no problem with it. I liked her as that. She was super sexy to me. I love to see Melanie on screen in such a powerful way. I had liked the Jamaica part. The Jamaica scenes was awesome. James Bond host in
That's
Jamaica's
one
heart.
thing reggae actually works in a modern movie.
Oh,
the reggae works at that point.
Bad mind. But yeah,
that's right.
I love that because, and I like the fact that they didn't have to say they're in London. They didn't have to say they were in Jamaica. They didn't have to, like, the scene played out for it. Even though in Jamaica is not necessarily known for its landscapes. It is clearly known for its power. It's clearly known for its music. It's clearly known by their people. So I like the fact that you knew that it was like, I didn't know that I knew that they filmed in Jamaica, but I was reminded by that when I heard them start to speak Jamaican, like when the same Ash fella, he bumped into a man, the man said something about certain Dutch boy or something.
Babylon and all sorts.
Yeah, Babylon boy.
That's the Babylon boy.
Yeah, I like that. So this movie works. It works. But again, the reason why I would say that we are so torn is because if you take it for a James Bond movie, if you take it as, you know what, I don't like the fact that they killed off James Bond or that they have taken away from James Bond, that he crying, talking about I love you to a woman, this and that, and that's it. Third, maybe it's time that you change how you think about and see certain things.
But that's the thing. That didn't bother me. Like
no, it didn't bother me either. But again, as I say,
I love, like I said, over the arc, I love how they showed how he matured. I love how they peel back the layers. I have no problem being vulnerable. Quite honestly, I thought it was one of the better decisions made over the overall arc of this movie, of the 5 movies.
Yeah. So again, but I was more speaking toward the people that may have had a problem with James Bond. James Bond saying I love you, and James Bond falling in love and being teary behind a woman, and James Bond getting emotional behind a woman, especially after Vespa. And you know what I mean? It works. It works.
Vespa would be the origin story for a supervillain. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's the origin story for supervillain.
Right?
For supervillainy. That is the origin story for supervillainy.
Yep. So this was death to James Bond, but more so death to what James Bond represented. We thank you for your service, James. The movies you gave us, the 24, 25 movies before, you did them well. Good, bad, or indifferent. Invisible Aston Martin.
Surfing in the Arctic.
Yeah, poor acting, parkour, straight out misogyny and sexism. Regardless of what you thought about James Bond, his tenure has ended. And it is now time for...
Or more so the idea of what he was is that time is over.
Right, that time is over. We're going into a different time, so that James Bond... Will we see another James Bond? Who knows? But I think that right now, I would be shocked to see if we see another James Bond in its current form, in this current universe. I would more think that they're going to go with Lashana Lynch going about her business as a super spy.
And they can make Paloma the new Felix, because like I said,
yeah.
She was on screen for about 10 minutes,
and she was perfect.
At most,
and she was perfect.
Comedic
relief, action,
Yeah.
acting, she was perfect.
And
So
she can
yeah,
she can handle herself, and that's all right. I loved it.
I'm glad you bring that up. I never thought about that before, but yeah, they're setting up this for all female super spy spin-off of James Bond. Think about it. You have Moneypenny, you
Yeah,
have
but no,
Paloma,
they
you
could,
have
you
shoot,
could,
you can even bring back, well, not Madeline necessarily, but you know what I mean. Like the point is that
yeah.
if they wanted to, they could have
Or
uh,
or
uh
what they could do is time jump and have the daughter.
hey,
You could time jump.
hey, I
You
was
could
thinking
time
about
jump.
that. I was saying about that. I was saying about you. What's your
You could
name?
time jump in
Matilda,
Matilda. Yeah.
Matilda or
You could
whatever.
time jump.
Matilda
You
Bond,
could
you're right
time
here.
jump.
Woo, brass. I watched that.
You could time jump. She would be an agent. You could even put Lashana as M.
Yeah. But as you're saying, here's the thing. The thing is, think
You
about
could
it.
go anywhere from here.
Think about it. Let's say the next 5 years of Bond, sorry, the next generation of Bond is Lashana's time.
Yeah.
You're essentially setting up for Lashana's time, and then after Lashana's time, you could say, shoot, 20 years pass. It's time for the young girl to come about and be a 00 agent. You know what I mean? And now,
Correct.
as you say, you have her as Bond, Lashana as M,
Yeah.
and then you could go about the play. So it's setting up nicely. I don't mind. James Bond was not going to work in this time anyhow because there were questions in the last 10 years about James,
for sure.
James Bond working
for
in these
sure.
times. So now, Mark, we've come to that part where you tell us we usually rate it out of 5 here. 5 of
Yeah.
something to do with the movie that is usually in the universe. I was thinking
Lord.
Aston Martin. That was the best I could have come up with, but you are much better at that than me. So you can.
I was actually gonna go with the famous periscope that was at the beginning.
You mean the thing?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
We could do that.
Yeah.
All right. So
Um,
out of those 5 barrel of the guns, what would you rate it?
Fight Barrel of the Guns, I'm gonna give it a 3 because, like I said, I appreciate what they did. I'm not necessarily rating this movie on this movie alone because it kind of hard to, because there's an overall art of the movies that he's done. So I'm kind of encompassing all of those and whatnot. And I gotta give it a 3 because in the grand scheme of things, there are a lot more misses than hits for me.
For me, I am going to give it 3.5, and I am going to rate this movie 3.5 because for me, as you said, you not got to come with the runtime. I understand the runtime, but I don't think me watching a hallway scene of a cell coming down with Blofeld is necessary. I understand it looks cool. It's a lovely visual.
Trying to create tension.
Yeah, but no. So 3.5 for me. And my brother, I really did enjoy this movie for its time. All 2 hours and 43 minutes of it. Ooh, child. Anyhow, that has been another edition of the Bad Movie Crew. Mark, send us home, my brother.
As always, we appreciate the feedback, all the love we've gotten. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Tell us what you think. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let us know if you're talking shit. And as always, appreciate the love and see you next time.
Peace and love.